Hello, strangers. Welcome to Albert Reads the Hits. I'm Albert Strange, and this is the Secrets Behind the Number Ones. Today, we have the sixth number one song of 1950, of the 1950s. And you see that's six. We're on a second hand here now. We've been doing it long enough to where we have six number one songs from the 1950s and every subsequent decade as well. The song that was the sixth number one song of 1950 is called If I Knew You Were Coming, I'd Have Baked a Cake by Eileen Barton. So let's, or rather, it was number one for 2 weeks in 1950, from April 15th until April 29th. It was a very big hit that year. Very big hit that year. I know it was only number one for 2 weeks, but it was a very big hit. I'll get into that a bit more after reading the lyrics, because that's why you come here, right? So here we go. Eileen Barton's If I Knew You Were Coming, I'd Have Baked a Cake. Well, 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 look who's here. I haven't seen you in many a year. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake, baked a cake, baked a cake. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake. How'd you do, how'd you do, how'd you do? Had you dropped me a letter, I'd have hired a band, grandest band in the land. Had you dropped me a letter, I'd have hired a band and spread the welcome mat for you. Now, I don't know where you came from, 'cause I don't know where you've been, but it really doesn't matter. Grab a chair and fill your platter. And dig, dig, dig right in. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake, hired a band. Goodness sake, if I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake. How'd you do, how'd you do, how'd you do? If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake, baked a cake, baked a cake. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake. How'd you do, how'd you do, how'd you do? Had you dropped me a letter, I'd have hired a band, grandest band in the land. Had you dropped me a letter, I'd have hired a band and spread the welcome mat for you. Now, I don't know where you came from, because I don't know where you've been, but it really doesn't matter. Grab a chair and fill your platter, and dig, dig, dig right in. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake, hired a band. Goodness sake, if I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake. How'd you do, how'd you do, how'd you do? That was a hit song in 1950. Tastes have changed a bit. The song was written by Al Hoffman, Bob Merrill, and Clem Watts. And as you can tell, it's somebody just arrived at this woman's doorstep, and so she invited him in to dinner. Someone I hadn't seen you in many a year. I don't know if it's a family friend or a possible suitor. Who knows what the situation is? But what was it? An uninvited guest? Who knows? I mean, she seems very happy about it, but she would have liked to have baked a cake for this person. Couple things about the song. This was the biggest hit for the record company of all time. It was a company called National. It was a small New York company, and this song exploded, and they were just completely overwhelmed by the sales that they had to make a deal with another record company called Mercury to distribute it, because obviously a small New York one couldn't distribute it nationwide. What's funny, I mean, not funny, but a connection with that is that the founder of the National was the father of the founder of Mercury. So he had an in, to say the least. And again, this was a very popular song. Number one for 2 weeks, but still even very, very popular. And Eileen Barton, the singer, according to her, this was an interview done in 2006, if I remember correctly, so this is 56 years after the fact. She was supposed to get a 5% royalty from this song. You know how much she got? 0. She didn't get any money from this song. So record companies have been screwing over artists for a long time. So there's that for her. The thing that this song is it's a song from the 50s. Let me tell you that. I won't go so far as to say that I liked it, but it was, I don't know. It's just so old. You can tell that it's so old. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just very dated. One thing that I liked about it is its use of IDOV, I apostrophe D apostrophe VE, which is obviously I would have, but it's like a double contraction, IDOV. And I did a little research on this, see if there's like a technical name for that, if double contraction or what it might be. I couldn't find anything. I don't know if I have any grammarians or English majors watching this. Please feel free to leave a comment about it. It's something that you actually use pretty often in everyday speech, but you don't usually write that way. You might say, I'd of or they'd of or something like that. But when you write it down, you would write I'd have or I would have rather than I'd of. So just something that I found interesting. The song itself is pretty short, less than 3 minutes. You can find it on YouTube. I found it there. It has it wasn't the official video, but it was the one with the highest number of views. Had 632,000 views. There's a Sesame Street version of the song with Cookie Monster, obviously baking a cake, cookies, whatever. That one has 684,000 views. So the Sesame Street version with Muppets singing it has more views than the original Eileen Barton version. And of course, it's almost covered by many artists. The rights to songs were so different back in the 50s, 40s, 50s, and even into the 60s, where so many people would cover songs within so much time. I mean, you can't imagine, 5 artists covering a number one hit, within a year of that song's release now, or at least, I mean, maybe doing something in a concert, but not like having a released single of that same song. But Bing Crosby did covers of this song. I think Sinatra did one as well, and there were a number of other singers in that time period who I've never heard of, who did covers of this song as well. But Eileen Barton's was the signature version, the most famous one, and she got screwed out of the rights for the 5% royalty she was supposed to get. Sorry, but that's there's really not that much to this song. You can just tell it's so old. Listen to it. Give it a listen. It's good to expand your horizons like this. Check it out. And that's what I have for you today, strangers. Do like, share, subscribe, all the things I'm always asking you to do. You can find me on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. I'm on them all. And as always, tip your service, tip your bartenders, tip your rideshare drivers, and your delivery drivers. They appreciate it. So I'm gonna link a few other songs from the 1950s right here, so you can check those out for songs that I've done. And I'll be seeing you in the 60s next time, strangers. Thanks again.